Welcome to Season 2 of the Spotlight series. Don't just survive, thrive. Most of us have experienced challenging times in our lives, particularly over the last few months of 2020. The key is how we choose to respond, whether we merely survive or thrive. My name is Nicholas Steele, founder of JJP Talent Solutions, an Australian IT recruitment company. With over 20 years' expertise, I provide insights on how you can transform your career to the next level. The focus of Season 2 is around reinvention and how we can thrive in the new normal. In this podcast, I speak to experts from a variety of professions, including HR, technology, marketing, and business coaching. I don't have all the answers. However, collectively, we can instill hope, clarity, and inspiration. I hope you enjoy listening. I'm delighted to introduce Naomi Wilson and Alistair Green. Naomi and Al are both HR consultants and the founding directors of Focus HR. Their main goal is to have a positive impact on the working lives of over 1,000 people by 2030. Naomi and Al, thank you for joining me on Season 2, Episode 2 of the Spotlight series, Don't Just Survive, Thrive. Naomi, Al, could you both please tell me more about yourselves and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. Are you happy for me to go first, Al?
Sure.
So Focus HR is the business that I started 8 years ago now. I've worked in that field of people since about 2001 though, and I guess I love great HR practices, passionate about those really great people practices, the powerful leadership approaches, and forging those strong working relationships. That's always been part of what drove me even as that really idealistic university student. So I'm actually director for 3 small businesses locally, and I guess I've lived and breathed the trials and tribulations of small business because of that. And so I'm really passionate about the journey that I've been on with those and then sharing that with other businesses, business owners as peers, and helping them to maybe learn from some of the mistakes I've made and guide them in the areas that I'm able to lend some expertise in.
Fabulous. And I love that people person aspect, which I too consider myself it's all about the people. And yep. Also, I'm quite idealistic still, despite having a few wrinkles nowadays. But that's fabulous. And what are your other businesses?
So my husband and I have a joinery company. He builds stairs and balustrading and beautiful pieces of timber furniture and those sorts of things for houses. And we've also got Talent Spring, which is a fairly boutique style professional recruitment agency just for Toowoomba.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome. And over to you, Al. Tell us more about you and what you do.
Thanks, Nicola. So I guess summarising me, I'm a strategy and process guy with a really strong people bent. I'm really passionate about small business. I believe small businesses are the cornerstone to our economy and the cornerstone to our great communities and the really prosperous life that we all enjoy. But it's not easy being in business, and I watched my dad start and run multiple small businesses, toiling away with really little time for anything else. And he exited the largest of those small businesses just about 6 months before the GFC in 2008. And hearing him describe that exit as pure luck was really devastating. From there, I thought, gosh, there has to be a better way, a smarter way. And so in my career so far, I've been really driven by finding that better way. So I work with small businesses mostly to implement strategic plans and best people practices so they can build winning teams and so they can forge stronger, more profitable businesses overall.
Fantastic. And I like that life story that you've got behind that with regards to your father. So Al, obviously we've had a few issues lately, a little bit of a crisis, and lots of businesses are looking at reducing costs, and one of the main costs is their staff. So what other workforce reduction options do companies have rather than just looking at redundancy and standing people down?
Yeah, great question. And look, that's right. We look at this as an option between stand downs and redundancies or terminations. And we come from it from a little bit of a different point of view. First of all, let's assume that this crisis is just temporary. And I strongly believe that we need to have that perspective that COVID-19 and this crisis and probably the likely recession on top of it is temporary, and we should be looking at temporary solutions. I'm also going to assume in answering this question that we all want to keep our workforce as whole as possible after the crisis. And that is that you're not planning on any major structural changes in the workforce, like cutting jobs permanently and so forth. So the problem that I have with redundancies is that unless you have a very new team with short service terms, it's a really expensive way of reducing payroll costs, and it's permanent. Mm-hmm. It's a termination of the employment contract. So it may long-term reduce payroll costs, but it doesn't do anything in the short term in most cases.
And they're going to have to, if they do need them again, they're going to have to recruit them again. So that's adding to the costs as well.
Exactly. And you have all that fallout of permanent solution, losing all of that knowledge and experience and engagement and all of that. It's a very permanent solution for a temporary problem. Equally, with stand downs are only a really effective measure for very temporary situations. So traditionally, stand downs are used for interruptions to operations that last 1 day to maybe 1 week, like a weather event. And these work because both parties know that they won't last very long. COVID-19 and the crisis that we're facing at the moment is completely different. And really, we need solutions that work medium to long term over weeks and months. So we advocate a combination of a number of options that spread the load or spread the pain across the whole of the workforce. At the core of it, I guess, the tactic that we look at is reducing the hours and the ordinary working hours and spreading that load across all of the workforce so that with the premise that if we all share the pain, then we'll save as many jobs as possible and we're likely to get through this better together. So the single course of action to immediately reduce payroll costs is to reduce ordinary working hours for all employees. So, for example, if a business needs to make 20%, say, reduction in payroll costs, you're looking for everybody in the workforce to take an average of a 20% cut. So for full-time employees, that's a day a week. So you could reduce your entire workforce to a 4-day working week instead of the 5-day, and you'd see that 20% reduction in payroll costs. Common target reductions that we're seeing with businesses at the moment are 20%, 40%, or 50% in the kind of outer reaches. The other thing, so you combine that, and that's about a negotiated position with all of your staff. You combine that with some really core table stakes, and those are things like stop overtime, just cut overtime entirely. Look at your rostering and make sure that you're rostering smartly to avoid penalty rates and those sort of higher cost to shifts. And then there's a bunch of smaller things like encouraging people to take annual leave or take other leave options. That doesn't necessarily immediately reduce your payroll costs, but it does bring down your liability. So those leave liability, which will have an impact in the long game. But I guess my focus and the real message that I want to send home is if you need to make a 20% payroll cut, rather than losing 20% of your workforce, spread the 20% cut across all of your workforce and keep everybody on. There are huge benefits and you'll see people pull together and really team up and you get a lot of wins out of that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, what can help with that situation, for example, doing a 4-day week rather than a 5-day week, is with the government's JobKeeper allowance, which can certainly help with the costs there as well. I guess the aspect of that is people going to be still doing meaningful work, and how can they be kept meaningfully engaged? And I think, Naomi, you could give a really good insight with regards to that.
Yeah, sure, Nicola. So when it comes to, I guess, meaningful work, obviously, if you're business as usual, if you are one of the lucky few who haven't been impacted and you've got the client work coming in and you've got work to get done, then it's keep going as you normally would. But that's probably not the situation that most businesses are facing. So what we are banging on about constantly with our clients at the moment is engage people's minds and engage their creativity. It is just so important when you're looking at engagement, retention, and even mental health for your employees. And it's a great opportunity for your business. So we've talked about it here, and we think the worst possible thing that can happen with the JobKeeper incentive payments, or not incentives, but JobKeeper payments, is that we're paying people $1,500 a fortnight to sit at home or to do useless work just so that they're doing their quota of hours. So we think too, the other element to this is how you treat people now as an employer is going to have an impact long term. So if you take this JobKeeper payment and you say, let's just get you to do some meaningless tasks because we've got these hours that we're paying for and we're just going to make you do those hours, and if that means sweeping the shop floor, then so be it. Short term, sure, and you may well have the right to do it as an employer, but long term, that's going to have a really negative impact on your business. So we're encouraging businesses to look at it in a different way, and I'm happy to share a little bit later on as well some of the hints and tips we've got around that. One of the other things that you can look at, though, is what you can do in the community. So I've been having conversations with some local business owners who are doing some really cool stuff, like there's a local dental clinic, and when dentists were forced to shut down, they spoke to their team and they said, look, we want to keep you engaged. JobKeeper's coming in. And they actually rang around to the likes of Meals on Wheels and those sorts of companies to say, do you need some volunteers? We're paying our people anyway. They're great people. They've got all these skills and they'd love to give back. The business isn't actually using them. And I still think there's ways that businesses can utilise their people even if their doors are closed. But just really nice stuff like that. And for the employee, that is meaningful. They're giving back to the community and giving back to the society. And again, their perception then of their employer is really positive because their employer is bothering to think about someone other than themselves.
Definitely. And that's a really fantastic idea. And I think actually helping people is a good way for you to overcome your own concerns and worries as well, and bring meaning, not just from a work perspective, but from a whole life perspective too.
Yeah, well, we're doing it with our team. We've got them, we don't have as much client work as we used to have, and we've got our team working on understanding this kind of stuff, what's happening with COVID-19, what's the new legislation, what are the changes, and generating information that we can put out there in the business community, even if it's not something that we then get paid for. That's okay. Our team still feels like they're contributing to these valuable clients and businesses of ours. So
absolutely. And I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast series as well. So about helping people.
Yep.
And Al, we've got a lot of people who are working from home. From an employer perspective, what are the main considerations that they should consider?
Yeah, look, it's a global working from home experiment at the moment, and one that I hope will have a really positive impact in the long term. And I think that we are seeing some of those benefits coming out. People reporting back to us higher productivity and greater outputs and delivery. So it is so important for us to get this right. And look, the first and probably the most important thing from my point of view is the understanding of the workplace health and safety considerations. It's a very simple rule that wherever the employee is working, that needs to be considered as an extension of their normal workplace. So the same rules apply. If you wouldn't have them doing something in the workplace because it's unsafe, then they shouldn't be doing that wherever they're working, whether that be at home, in their home office, in the lounge, at the dining room table, wherever. So those workplace health and safety considerations are super important. And we'd advocate doing a little bit of a checklist. There's so many. If you go to worksafeaustralia.org.au, there's a lot of resources on there that can help with checklists and so forth, making sure that the ergonomics, the lighting, all of those safety considerations at home are taken care of. Once that immediate workplace health and safety, and you've got a safe work environment to begin with, then it's about connection, engagement around meaningful work. I can't reiterate strongly enough Naomi's point earlier. If we use this JobKeeper payment to send our people home for 6 months without meaningful work, they're going to return to our workplaces really ill. We're going to have people returning to the workplace with some serious health and well-being issues, and we're going to have another crisis on our hands. So can't stress enough the importance of giving our people meaningful work and engaging them around that. And there's a bunch of things that we can do, and I'll go into a couple of those. The other thing is oversight and supervision. So we need to remain connected with our team and make sure that the productivity, the accountability, all of those things stick. Flexibility is another important consideration. You know, we've got mums and dads at home who are homeschooling their kids at the same time, and so often they don't have options for additional daycare or childcare services. So we need to offer that true flexibility and work with our people to find out those best arrangements. We've got our team working at home and schooling their kids as well, and they're working different hours. So one of our team gets up nice and early, 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, works a couple of hours, and then gets up and then has some time off to look after kids. There are also flexibility around you don't have to work full-time hours from home if you need to take care of kids. So true flexibility and making sure that you're having those conversations. The other thing is we're seeing some pretty horrific stats about the well-being of managers and leaders at the moment, and they're reporting their health and well-being is down because they're not putting their own oxygen masks on first. So another thing that I'd really encourage is, as a manager, as a leader, as a director of your business, you don't have to have all the answers, but what you do need to do is put your own oxygen mask on first. How can you help your team get through this if you're struggling yourself? So access to an EAP, so an employee assistance program, directors, managers, leaders, you need to be using that stuff too as well. And not only just offer it to your team, but make sure that if you're struggling, reach out. There are so many people there that are here to help. Organisations like ourselves coach and help managers and leaders through these things. There's also a ton of resources and service providers that can help in that psychological side as well, to triage and to help get through. So make sure you put your own oxygen mask on first is my key there as well. And lastly, ask lots of questions of your team and keep engagement by contacting your team regularly. We run 2 daily meetings online with our team every day, and we keep as much of our core business as usual. All of our key people initiatives, all of those things are business as usual. So we run our weekly meetings, we run our monthly meetings, we run our daily huddle meetings, and all of our mentoring and development, our one-to-one catch-ups, they're all getting done. We just moved them online. So as much as possible, keep that communication up. And there's a couple of questions that I encourage our clients to ask. Touch base with your team and say, what are you learning about yourself, about the team that you're in, the department you're in, or about our business, about our industry during this time? And then what other things would you like to keep or bring back to the workplace once this crisis is over and we're all allowed to come back to work? What are the 1 or 2 things that you'd like to see reintroduced or brought into the business as a learning from this period? I think those are quite insightful to keep the focus on the future.
Can I add something in on that as well, Nicola, if that's all right? Al's point around flexibility and the working from home. The other thing, I'm always the relationship person, the other thing that we've got to keep in mind is the relationship piece. And we're seeing businesses do one of 2 things. One is they have those genuine conversations and really powerful conversations like what Al was talking about around what flexibility do you need, what's going to work for you. And it is based on trust. The other thing that we are seeing businesses do is get all concerned about how do we know if they're doing their work and how do we know if they're actually working and not sitting in front of the TV and how do we monitor them and how do we get that program that measures keystrokes and all this really, really scary stuff. And again, it goes back to, do you have trust and do you have a solid relationship? And if you need to be putting those measures in place, which are all based around trying to monitor and control, I would suggest that you've actually got a deeper issue than just trying to keep productivity while they're working from home. And if you do have a team you can trust and you go and put those sorts of things into place as part of trying to manage the working from home dynamic, again, you're going to do damage to your relationships with your people. And so that's another really big consideration for when you've got people working remotely in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, look, please don't. You cannot punish the entire team for what may happen from one or two employees. And I guess when I'm talking to our clients about monitoring programs or applications and saying, just don't, the negative consequences of monitoring your team to that degree far outweighs the small amount of times that you might catch someone doing the wrong thing. And I always approach this of assume that most of your team are going to do the right thing and want to do the right thing by you. And also assume that one or two are not going to want to do the right thing. So when that happens, deal with the acute problem. Don't make a rod for your entire team, and don't punish everybody for the wrongdoings of one or two. But assume that those one or two are going to happen.
Be aware that it might happen, but don't put everybody under the same rules and regulations. Because I think working from home can be quite empowering as well, and be much more productive, even juggling the kids and all that aspect. So thanks for that. Those are some really good advice, and about obviously the managers and directors and business owners putting on their oxygen masks before, whilst dealing with the team as well. So when it does get better, and it does seem to be improving, how, Naomi, can businesses take a step back to look past this and consider how they might use this opportunity to really engage their people in building assets and creating a future focused, thriving business?
Yeah, awesome question. This is something that we've been really active in doing ourselves, and also encouraging businesses to do. We see it's so important to get the team involved in exploring what are things actually going to look like post-COVID-19, because we won't return to normal. Normal won't be normal anymore. There will be a new normal. So customer needs might have changed. How our customers interact with it might change. How we deliver our services and products might have changed. So getting your team sort of brainstorming and thinking about those things, and then flowing that into what does that mean in terms of the assets that we should be building right now so that we are ready. And this is where I think JobKeeper can be used to its best advantage, is if you've got a business that's had to shut its doors, or your client demand has decreased and therefore you do have spare capacity, this is the stuff to get people engaged in. There's some really powerful questions that you can be asking your team. So we're saying things like, what would you do to fix the things that bug you at the moment about how we do things or how our business does things? What sort of processes and systems could we fix? What are some of the someday maybe tasks? We've all got them, those things that we've always gone, geez, I'd love to do that, but I never have because I'm doing the doing. You can ask if there were the opportunity to spend a few months doing a course or developing a skill that you would really love to learn. What would you do? Again, use this time effectively for that. I think too, you can get some really interesting stuff when you ask the question of what hidden skills, talents or passions do you have that we don't currently tap into? I'll tell you a story. We had a client that did this, and one of the things that came out was the receptionist, this sort of support coordinator role, said, actually, I'm an avid video maker. Absolutely love photography and making videos, and I don't think our business does anywhere near enough of this. So we're not really effective with social media, and we're not really effective at putting our image out there. I'd love to do that. Brilliant. Like, that was such a good match-up between these skills that they didn't have any idea that she had, and a need for the business. And because she was quiet in her normal job, it was beautiful. They got to get her started on that. Another really powerful question that we find is questions about threes. So list 3 things that we should start doing as a business. List 3 things we should stop doing as a business, or 3 things we should keep doing. So the way that we suggest businesses do it, and we've got some tools available for this actually, the way we suggest businesses do it is do a survey with their team to ask a whole range of questions. We've got about a dozen of them. They ask those questions to the team, they bring those results back together, and then they have a workshop with their team where they go through and say, right, what, of all of these ideas, which ones should we prioritise, which are going to have the best impact, which are the ones that we can actually do without sinking too much resource into it, and come up with a plan of the projects that they want to work on in this next 3, 6, 9, however long it takes to come out of COVID-19, but have that plan because that's where they get to build assets. It also links right back into what I was talking about earlier around meaningful work, because people who are working on these projects, even though they might not be doing their normal job or they might not be servicing a customer or a client, they're sinking their teeth into a project that they know will have a big impact in the business. So
Definitely.
that's how we see it working. And I mentioned before, we've got resources. They're actually giveaway on our website. So if businesses do want to have a look at it, it's just focushr.com.au. And if they click on there's a big banner there that says business response for COVID-19. And under our webinars, they can see the recording of how we've stepped businesses through it. We've given away the Trello board to manage the process. So really encourage businesses to jump into doing some form of that.
That's fantastic. And I'll include those links in the show notes as well.
Yeah, awesome.
And it is a real opportunity for soul searching. And I guess it needs to be the right environment as well for employees to feel comfortable to say, I really don't like what we're doing here, and not feel like they're going to get punished as a result.
Yeah, our questions, we've designed the questions that we use so that it is a fair smattering of it. Because, not every employee is comfortable to say, I think we're weak in this area. So it's important to have a range of questions so that there are definitely ones that will tease out thoughts where others they might not feel comfortable depending on that relationship.
And I guess they could also do it anonymously as well.
Yeah.
If there was a concern about that, obviously the whole organisation would have to be anonymous, but it's probably more relevant to have it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Well, thank you very much. It's been really insightful, and I think the conversation with both of you has been very hopeful and inspiring as well, which is what I really want to achieve from this podcast series. So thank you for that.
Thanks for having us on here.
My pleasure. And is there anything else that you'd like to share, either of you?
Nicola, look, great conversation and terrific questions. I guess the one thing that I would also like to reiterate is during this time of change, this time of crisis, this time of reinvention, you cannot, as a business owner or a manager, leader, you cannot over communicate. And so I'd really encourage us to communicate as much as possible. And I guess that starts with having a bit of a communication plan as a leader. So, when this thing first hit, Naomi and I sat down together and we had a look at all the communication that we did, that we had kind of set out as recurring communication and memos and emails to our team, and really up the ante a little bit and looked at, how do we do this better, smarter. And so one thing is you don't want it ad hoc or sporadic. So do need to have a plan. But I'd encourage business owners and leaders to start with a few kind of basic starting points. One is a weekly email or memo out to your entire team, just as a touch base, notifications, have a positive message, keep the dialogue. We call our weekly email out to our team the director's dribble. And it's just an update to the team of what's going on inside the walls, outside the walls with our team. But we do it every single week. It goes out on a Friday. It's a nice 5 to 10 minute read for our team. The next one is have team meetings. So run those meetings as you would. So if you've got a weekly cadence or a fortnightly cadence to your meetings with the team, make sure you stick by that and continue to do it. And then the last one is make sure you're doing one-on-one check-ins, well-being checks with your team. So either a Zoom call or so you can see face-to-face or even a phone call, but making sure that we are touching base on a regular basis with each one of our teams just to check in. Because as a leader, as a business owner, you'll start seeing and hearing a pattern whether that employee is okay or whether they're starting to slip. And if they're starting to slip, reach out to them, offer them some support. But if you don't do that regularly, you won't see the pattern and you won't see them slip. They'll go from being perfectly fine to really, really bad. So communication is so important during this time.
Yeah, and
that's brilliant.
I would add to that, Nicola, this is a really unique situation. For Focus HR, our big goal is actually to have a positive impact on the working lives of 100,000 people by 2030. That's thing that we have on our wall that our whole team aspires to. And it's never been more relevant than right now. And business owners at this very point in time have employees who are in need of positivity and of a positive impact. And like Al said, it's about the way that they are communicated with, the way that they are treated. So business owners right now have got that opportunity and also the responsibility to have that positive impact on their people. And I think they need to really keep that in mind when they're communicating and when they're dealing with their people.
And when the message isn't positive, and when it is a challenging or negative message, share that detail and share it in full as much as possible. And as long as you've got this good cadence and you've got some consistency around communicating, the team will see it and they will be able to read it from the way that you put it across, that you're just sharing this information as it comes up, and they'll respond really positive to it. They will come around and support you. You know, there's nothing that brings a team together like common adversity. So, yeah, even if the message is negative, if you've got bad news to share it and keep going, but don't stop communicating.
Absolutely. And that's both of you. That was really fabulous advice. So thank you very much. And thank you very much, both Naomi and Al, for your insight. Is there anything else that you'd like to add at all?
Don't give us another run at it. You probably can hear we're so passionate about this stuff. You'll get it started again. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And thank you very much, Al, as well.
My absolute pleasure, Nicola. Thank you.
I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. If you're looking for career advice, your next career opportunity, or to grow your tech team, then please call me, Nicola Steele, on 0499 773 546, or go to our website, jjptalent.com.au. The Don't Just Survive, Thrive podcast is part of the Spotlight series, which includes the YouTube channel, Spotlight on Software Development. If you want more insights into the software industry, particularly tech startups, then subscribe to the Spotlight on Software Development YouTube channel. Thank you for listening. Until next time.